because I talked with Mrs. Porter, and she had wanted to get on the agenda at the school board. And of course, I told her at first that I would get her on there. And she indicated that we all might be there sometime in May. So I thought about that. And I decided, I told her I would come and talk to the group. I didn't come because I'm terrified or anything like that. I simply came because I love Richwood. I came because I love the students here at Richwood. We have done things to make sure that this school was included in the city limits of Richwood. We worked hard for that. We worked hard to make sure that even the logo, the ram, would be included, and the name of the school would be retained. Those were things that we really worked hard for. We worked hard to make sure the schools were here. The reason that the high school is here is simply because there were so many students, minority students at Washita Parish High School. One of the school board members made the suggestion. They were building another school that was in a white area, so they wanted to know whether or not we were willing to accept the school in this area. And I jumped at the chance, and I worked with Mr. Harris, Edward Harris, the former mayor, and we made that a possibility. We were not really happy about the completion of the school when it was completed because we felt that it was not adequate. We compared it to Sterlington School, and it was really crowded initially when they built the school. We fought like the Dickens to get the junior high school, the middle school. They did not want to build us a middle school. They wanted to add another wing out there for the middle school. We fought that. So I'm here, not to apologize for anything that I've tried to do. I'm just here to say to you that for a long time we've heard a lot of bickering from Richwood. Once I looked up, every time I could see the papers or the news, Richwood was in the news. And I just didn't like that. And so I wanted to at least come and talk. We don't, and we will not agree on everything. But if I don't do anything else for Richwood, listen, I feel like I've done enough. I just want to say now, the reason why, now, I don't care about you going before the board. It's okay if you want to go before the board. You do not have the votes when you go to the board. And I just didn't want you, again, carrying Richwood out as a specter, because these are things that they're just going to blow up and build up. And if it's something that we cannot sell in our own midst, in our own group, I don't think we want to be running to white folk. You know you don't have a chance when you go up there. And maybe all my life I've been fighting against white folks, so I don't want to have to be fighting against black folk. And so I don't feel guilty that I believe that any facility, anything that's named at this school include persons who are active, persons who have been active and are active now. This school was closed 14, 15 years before it reopened. Most of those guys you're talking about have retired. I don't have anything against them, but Richwood now is a new facility. Richwood, they really fought at the beginning. They wanted to hire one of those guys as a football coach. They wanted to go back. Landon Johnson said to him, no. He wanted to name the school Southside. He wanted to take everything away from you. So I think as a school board member, I should have some point of views. There are some beliefs that I have, because I don't think that all my work should be in vain. And I don't think that because you disagree with me that you have to throw me down the drain. But I simply wanted to say that I think the school, you have a good school here, you have good representatives. I think that there are other persons who have been at the school, went to school, played ball here. They are still active. And, I would be in favor of some of those guys. You want to name some of those guys for some of the buildings. I have no problem with that. But I'm just totally against reaching out there, getting a person, and then I want to know, what has he done for this school? What has he done for this building? He has done nothing. So that's my point of view. And if there are other questions, I don't want to have a long conversation, but I really been mistreated in the whole process. And really, it puts a sour taste in my mouth if I have to go back and tell you all of the things that have been done through this process.
Oh, okay, wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. We're gonna ask the questions in order by hand in decency. Everybody can't talk at one time. So you can ask all the questions you like, but we'll address one issue at a time, one question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said something about some other guys that you think would be more appropriate. Did you have any names?
I do, but I think you ought to do some thinking. You
Okay.
you know some of those people just like I do.
Okay.
And no need to be calling their names.
Okay.
Because I don't really care.
Okay.
As long as, if they played football here, they've been a part of the old school, and now they're still active out there.
Okay.
The guys that I've been given names for, they all been retired before this school was even built.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Robinson?
What's up?
I can respect what you said, and I would like to personally take my personal moment and thank you for the job that you've done over the many years in the position of being a servant for the community. I'm not a student of Richwood, but I grew up and all of my family, most of them, were here. And when I was a little boy, down on Brown Road, Coach Freeze and Coach Simmons, they were coaching at that time. So I'm here because of the overall legacy. I understand what you're saying about being active now and in this particular school, and I can respect that. But I just have a different view because my reason for being here is because I realize what impact that Coach Freeze, Coach Simmons, and some of the other guys had on the overall community. As a result of that, you have grandkids now and great-great-grandkids that are students at this school and have graduated, but it all started because there was a man committed to the process of helping to develop the character of good men, as we know them today. Many of them have died and gone on, but many are still living at this time. So that is the reason why I'm here. And I would ask, with all due respect to your opinion, I would only ask you one question, that is, if the majority of of the community would like to see this done, would you consider being supportive of the majority of the community?
I remember, Mr. Robinson, when this issue first came up, there was contact made with the principal of the school, with the superintendent of the school, and with quite a number of other people. And they gave their approval. They said yes, and then at the very end, when I became a roadblock, then I was contacted. There are some people here who sat in a meeting with us before that, even when they were in the process of trying to get the facility to name it, and I had not been contacted. They were talking about, and I may be digressing a little bit, but I think you need to hear this. They were talking about making the system a unitary system. Right now, Ouachita Parish school system is under a court order where things cannot be done in terms of assignments of students, transportation, administration. All of that has been under the court order. And so when I found out that they were working to make this unitary, And let me throw this announcement in. Excuse me, there will be a meeting at the school board office on this coming Thursday, the school board meeting, but at 5 o'clock. In fact, I left the announcement in my truck, but some of you probably heard it and you know about it already. I met with a group of educators, and my point has always been to whenever there is an issue of importance, I think, to the community, then I think the community ought to know about it. It may not be much that I can do about it, but I think the community ought to know, and if they want to act, they can. So at that time, we talked about the possibility of that group providing some funds. They have an old organization, teacher organization, where funds were available to hire an attorney. It didn't mean that an attorney could stop the unitary system from becoming a reality, but it did mean that as they go through the process, that we had legal representation that would make sure that we got the benefit of the doubt. So we met with that group. After we met with that group, then we did not hear anything from that group at all. That dealt with the students, that dealt with the faculty, that dealt with all the people. We didn't hear anything else from them. The next thing I heard, they came to me on naming the facility. Now I'm gonna tell you, unitary system for students is more important to me than naming a facility after anybody. And so now, once they met with these people, and then they began to put pressure and explain themselves, and then they came to me. I met with them in a meeting. And after the meeting on naming the facilities, then I told them at the time there was an election coming up. My election was coming up. I said, let me think about it, and I'll get back with you after my election. Before the election, a group of these people went up to see Bob Weber. Went to Bob Weber's office. Bob Weber calls me. He said, Reverend Russell, he said, there's a group of people up here, and they are angry, they're upset. They want to make sure that facility is named after Freeze, after whoever, and it's not going away. And he went on to explain, said, you can get their telephone numbers and give them a call, and et cetera, et cetera. Well, that was one point that turned me away right there. I did promise to meet with them again and discuss it. They go around me and see Bob Weber. Okay. Now let me tell you this. Bob Weber has more respect for me than some of you do. Bob Weber has more respect along with some of the other board members than some of you do. They appreciate the fact that they know I stand up for my district. Well, then after that, they met with Bob Weber several times. They went to his office. Every time they met with him, he called me. And then they come back to me again and look, you know, my mind was just closed. I don't operate that way.
Just 1 minute, just 1 minute.
I'm mad as hell.
Just one moment. Just one moment. Ms. Brown was next.
Okay, Reverend Russell, with all due respect of that organization that you mentioned, the Local Education Protection Organization, I was a member of that, and I met with the group when they were called together to help finance the process. And I don't know where your line of communication broke down, but that committee kept meeting, and in one committee meeting, your assistant was there. I think the man that came with you the first time, I believe his name was Richard Young. You were not there. I don't know why you were not there.
Nobody invited me there.
Oh, well,
Okay.
Well, as I said, I don't know where your line of communication broke.
Okay.
But we discussed it. A motion was made by Mr. James Harris to make a donation of $5,000 to the cause. And at that time, we made that motion. We also had some of the younger people from the Richwood community who was there willing to support in any manner that they saw fit. And if I remember correctly, approximately 2 weeks later, when, as you said, you was running for the school board.
Re-election, right.
For re-election. And the article came out in the newspaper that you were running because you wanted to be there when the school system became unitary. Okay, now for some of us, that was in the Monroe News Star.
Okay, I remember the article. I want you to go through the process as they unified, as they went through the area. I want to be there to try to make sure that everything was done as legit as possible.
But now, you know, we know that the school system is not fair. We know that the schools are not treated and staffed. Nothing is fair, not even the furniture or anything else. And this goes back to the day that Columbus was here. We know that. But now, all due respect, yes, I was a part of that committee, but you were one of the first people that committee contacted before they went to the school board. Because I was with the group of young men and women who met with you over at Conway.
Okay, let's see if we can get it. Let's see if we can clear up our time now. I was not one of the first person they met.
Okay, well now I'm gonna say this. Now you mentioned what Bob Weber is saying. Now I worked with Bob maybe 8 or 9 years, and we worked in the same department. Yeah, a committee worked with him. Now he talked very favorable, and he also gave us some suggestions. And that's why I'm waiting now to see where we're going from here, because I know you represent the school district, and I don't think anybody's trying to go around you, but
They already have.
well, again, Reverend Russell, with all due respect to you and your status, I respect that, but again, I do not understand why all of these schools have had facilities named. Don Childs just went on the field at West Monroe.
Now,
And then we are a black school in a black community. And I don't think in 2013 we ought to be afraid to face that white man. I don't care who he is.
you ought not be afraid to face him, but you ought not turn against the representative of your district
Well,
to go face that white man.
Well, see,
You ought not do that.
I don't think anybody is going against you,
That happened.
I think out of respect, I don't know of anyone who has disrespected you. In the meetings with Bob Weber, no one said anything negative about you. All they was asking for what was the process. And he explained the process. He went so far as to say usually when things happen in a district, the representative of that district will make a motion and someone else will second it. And he went so far as to tell us that.
Now let's just understand one thing. Now, we want to make keep the record clear. I never was contacted after we met about the unitary system. Nobody got back to me. I was promised in that meeting that I would be contacted. Nobody contacted me on whether or not they were going to provide any funds, what they were going to do. The next meeting I heard from some members of that group was, let's name the facility Richwood. That's what I heard.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, who contacted you about the LEPC and got you involved with that? Now, that's the person I'm looking for that should have made the contact with you, the secretary. Because see, we had calls and we made calls to all of the living people that paid into that fund. Now, the person who initiated that first meeting should have been the person who called.
I initiated the meeting. I called, I got on the phone after I found out there was going to be a meeting and that they were moving toward the unitary system. I made a call to 2 or 3 people. They were at the meeting. Mr. A. Pierce was one of them. Irvin Turner was another. And there was one other. And so they indicated to me that they were interested. And that's why we set the meeting up at Macedonia Baptist Church with the preachers there, Reverend Williams and some of the others. And of course, after you met, we didn't hear anything else. We went and talked to a lawyer. We talked to Louis Scott. Louis Scott said, well, to represent you, we need to start out with about $16,000. That was his fee that he threw at us. But after I didn't hear anything else, I said, well, they're not interested, you know?
Okay, wait, we have some more questions from the floor. Mr. Sauce.
Okay, what I want to say right now is when we started to name the stadium after Coach Michael Freeze, it had nothing to do with the unitary system of Washington Parish. This group we were in was the Richwood Football Committee, and it had nothing to do with following lawsuits or anything like that. Coach Freeze, I played for Coach Freeze in 1960 to 64. In that period of time, we sent over 45 guys to college, over 13, 14 guys to the professional ranks of the NFL. Plus, from that group from 1960 to the school closed, there were like 5 or 6 people with doctor's degrees that came out of Richwood High School. So, quite naturally, we have a finding for Coach Freeze. A lot of things you said here today, it's just not true. We did not go around anybody. When we met with Dr. Weber, he said go see Reverend Russell, and that's what we did. Perry was the group leader. That had nothing to do with the military system or anything else. We did not file any lawsuits, for discrimination or anything like that. But I'm here to tell you today that regardless of if you decide that you do want to or don't want to do it, we're going to run over your head, over your body, over your everything. We're going to get this done. And if you don't want to come along and be part of this, that's fine too. We just need you to tell us today that you're not going to do it.
I'm not gonna do it.
Okay, then.
But just a minute, Reverend Russell. Mr. Gass.
How you doing, Reverend Russell?
How you doing, sir?
I was a Richwood graduate and there's 2 questions I just need to ask you that quick. Have you ever been to a Richwood basketball or football game?
Yes, sir.
Did you see McAfee and all of them at the game?
I don't remember, or I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I'm sure that they did come.
They go to every game.
That's fine.
Okay. Now you say you were for this school, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I don't think so because you go name, what have Don Showers did for West Monroe that McAfee hadn't done for Richwood? Same thing, he's a coach, right?
Yes.
McAfee is still at every football game and every basketball game in Richwood, supporting. So how come he is not supporting this school?
Now let me throw this out at you. Mrs. Brown, husband has a facility at Robinson named after him. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Red Sims, one of the school board members, has a field house or the area named after him. Don Shaw's has facilities named after him. Now, the difference in all of those 3 particular guys who have had facilities named, they all were part of their school. Their school was never closed down for 15 years. They were active all the way through. So I'm in favor of any school